Okay.
Hello guys and welcome. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you're new to me, my name is Hannah Whiteman from the Get Your Healthy On community, and I'm here excited to do an interview today with Courtney Townley from the Grace and Grit podcast. Connected with her podcast a few months ago and just fell in love with her style and also her philosophy because it really mirrored my own. And so I'm excited for her to share with you today. I thought we would talk 3 hot tips on health, happiness, hormones, and the holidays, because that is what we're in right now. But before we jump in, I want to do a quick introduction, let you know who Courtney is and a little bit about her, and then I'll have her share. So Courtney has been in the health and wellness space for 20 years. She's been helping women around the world take better care of themselves with more consistency and ease, which I love that. She is the host of the highly rated podcast Grace and Grit, where she helps women to expand the definition of health far beyond the topics of diet and exercise. And by doing so, she provides listeners with tools and strategies for making lasting change. And I love that. She is a level 2 certified nutrition coach through Precision Nutrition. She's also a National Strength and Conditioning Associated coach, and she is a certified life coach through Brooke Costello's Life Coach School. So lots of certifications, lots of experience and knowledge, and so I'm excited for you to hear from her today. And so Courtney, thank you so much for taking some time out of your schedule. I appreciate you doing that. I appreciate what you're doing for the profession and how I love how you share helping women believe that the best years of their life can be ahead of them and not behind them. I love that. And so excited for you to share today. If there's anything I missed in your intro that you want our listeners to hear about, if you could share maybe a little bit of background on what you got into, why you got into health, and take it from there if you would.
Sure. Thanks for having me. And I will just tell you very quickly that the reason I do the work I do today is because I started off as a dancer. So I was actually a professional dancer in my younger years. And I don't know if you know anything about the dance profession, but it's not super lucrative. So I was always looking for ways to put food on the table, right? To actually make money. And it made sense for me to fall into the fitness industry to help. I started teaching people how to become better movers because that was just sort of a natural segue from the dance world. But I quickly realized that a lot of people were coming to me to become better movers, but what they really wanted was just to feel better. You know, they wanted to have more energy and more confidence and not feel like so out of control around food and alcohol. And I was not in any way equipped to help people with those challenges. So not to mention, I also in my late 20s kind of started going through my own physiological breakdown. So I was very much the fit looking trainer who was anything but healthy. So I looked really good, but I had terrible digestion. I didn't sleep at night. My energy was in the trash can. So I really was struggling on a lot of levels. And long story short, it led me to seek out the help of a health coach. And I spent almost 18 months working with this woman, and she helped me to revolutionize the way I looked at health. Like, lo and behold, health is more than just how you move, right? I mean, now it seems so funny, but at the time, I really just didn't know better. So I was so impacted by the work that I learned working with her that I went on to learn a lot more about nutrition and lifestyle change and behavior change. And that's really why I do the work I do today, is because I was so deluded into thinking that if I just focused on what I ate and I just focused on how much I moved my body, that would be enough. And the truth is, it's not enough. There's so much more to the health equation. And the more I learned, the more excited I got. And the more I realized, like, I would be doing people such a disservice if I just stayed in the gym and taught people how to move their bodies better, because I know better and I want to help people do better.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. And I love that conversation around it's not just exercise and nutrition, right? Calories in, calories out. Like, there's a whole spectrum, I guess, of health that I think the diet industry is doing us a disservice with not sharing that with people. And that's why I love the work that you're doing. And, you know, the message that I'm trying to get out to people is, you know, things like managing your hormones and managing your stress levels and managing your thought life, right? And so that's what I'm excited for you to share today and kind of give your tips around how do we handle the holidays with ease? How do we thrive during holidays, stressful seasons of life, and how do like hormones affect, especially, us as women, as we think about this thing of health too?
For sure. So one thing I want to say before we get into the holiday conversation is that, the energy in, energy out equation that the diet industry promotes so much, it's not that it's not valid. It works, right? We know that if somebody wants to lose weight, they have to create an energy deficit, like at some point. But the truth of the matter is most people are just trying to start with a calorie deficit, and their chemistry is so out of whack that their body has absolutely no idea what they're trying to tell it. So if you try to do something like a calorie deficit, which is a really stressful thing, in a system that is already overly stressed, you're really like just headed towards, a really rough spot, not towards health. And so it is, it can be a helpful thing along the way, but the timing of it is really important. And so moving into the holidays, holidays are insane because I feel like it brings up everything to a higher extent that we typically stress out about during the year. So we're around a lot of family, right? We're getting less sleep. We're being exposed to sugar and alcohol in droves. It's like everything that is causing stress in our life is coming at us at more intensity. So one of the first things that I really talk to my clients about as we're approaching the holidays is we use these phrases like a joyful holiday season and happy holidays. And I ask women, like, what does that even mean to you? Like, if you really stop to consider what a joyful holiday season would look like for you, I'm pretty sure it would not include a lot of things that you're feeling compelled or pressured to take on, right? So my first recommendation is that people slow down and consider, how do you want the holidays to look? Because if you don't have any intention to make it better this year and to actually make it joyful for you, it's probably going to roll the way it always has, which I'm guessing for a lot of people listening has been chaotic, right?
Right.
So just taking some time to ask yourself, like, what would a healthy, happy, joyful holiday season actually look like? And here's the truth of it. I bet there's some holiday traditions that you've been engaging with for years that don't make you all that much. It doesn't make you happy. So why are you doing them? They're exhausting you. They're depleting you. They're not all that fun for you. And yet, somewhere in our head, we tell ourselves these stories that everyone's going to hate us. Everyone's going to be disappointed if we don't do the thing. But you know what people really want more than anything? They want you to show up as a happy, bright person to help make the holidays great. And if you're resentful and bitter and reactive, it doesn't matter what you're doing in terms of traditions. It's not going to be all that fantastic. So consider, what are things you've been doing for years that you've done out of expectation rather than what you really want to do for the holiday season.
I like that a lot. It's good. That's really good.
I think it's important. And then, of course, the second thing is most women that I work with are already sleep deprived. And then they go into the holidays and that gets worse, not better. Because they're now, rationalizing that they have to do all these things for all these people. And so because they can't work less hours or take things off their to-do list, they're staying up later at night to get it done.
Right.
And when we talk about hormones are like, people don't understand that the magic of health really happens in the restoration of our lives. It's not happening in the doing. So when you go to the gym, it's not going to the gym that makes your muscles stronger, right? It's in the recovery of the muscle that makes the muscle stronger. And that is true of our immune system, of our hormonal system. When we're sleeping, our brain cashes out. Like, our body just recovers on so many levels. So if we're cutting our sleep short, we are making life 10,000 times harder. And most people listening have had experience of being around a young child. And when you don't have a bedtime, or a child that you're taking care of does not get adequate sleep, how does that roll? Right? It's not good. And yet this is exactly what happens to adults. right? We throw these tantrums and we become these giant toddlers when we aren't getting enough sleep. And the things we gravitate towards to help us cope are alcohol and sugar. So if you can focus on at least the one thing, like of getting enough sleep through the holiday season, I almost guarantee that your decisions around food and alcohol and how you respond to difficult family members and your mindset in general will be so much better. Absolutely. So that would be my second tip is definitely protect your sleeping hours.
Absolutely.
And then the third and final thing, of course, I just mentioned is the sugar and alcohol because it is the holidays. Yeah. And when I talk to clients this time of year, one of the main things that keeps coming up time and time again, like when I ask them, what is your fear? What are you nervous about in the next 6 weeks? And inevitably, everybody says to some extent that it's something to do with food and alcohol, that they're going to feel out of control. So how do we get more in control? Well, I just mentioned get sleep, right? But also stay well fed. Eat a lot of nutritious foods throughout the day. So when you do have an opportunity to drink alcohol or consume sugar, you're not making decisions based on low blood sugar and high amounts of stress. Like that's a terrible place to make decisions from. So if we can at least control our blood sugar levels, when we get into the presence of those things, we'll actually make better decisions. We may not go so far with them. And then the other thing I would say is with food and alcohol is try to delay gratification. So when you walk into a scenario, a party, an office gathering, anything where you feel like, ooh, there's my favorite Christmas cookie. There's the apple pie, right? There's the wine that I love. Awesome. Permissions can be a really healthy part of life. But if you go to it right away because you're uncomfortable with being in a social setting or because you've had a really stressful day, you don't really give yourself any opportunity to kind of question why you're consuming the thing. Is it because you really want to taste it and be with it and enjoy the hell out of it? Or is it because you're reacting to all of these emotions that have built up through the day and now this is your way of coping with them? There's a big difference. Mm-hmm. So if you can delay gratification for maybe 15, 20 minutes, you may find that you don't want the thing as much as you thought you did, or you won't take it quite as far because now you're comfortable, right? You have let yourself get more comfortable in that social situation. You've maybe decompressed from the stress of the day. And so you're not reacting with that thing. And when you do decide to have the thing, meaning enjoy the heck out of it. Be fully present with it. Savor every bite or every sip of it. Because if you miss the experience of it, you're going to go back for more. And you're going to go back for more. And this is why when we watch TV and we eat, we tend to overconsume. Mm-hmm. Anytime we're multitasking when we're eating or drinking, we tend to take it too far because we're not really experiencing it.
Right.
So when you give yourself permissions this holiday, and I hope you do, just be well fed, delay gratification a little bit, and then when you have it, sit down and be fully present with it. And also have a plan for how you're going to get yourself back on track the next day. Because there's always a consequence, right? There's always a consequence to having alcohol. There's always a consequence to eating sugar. And for most people, that consequence is we want more of it the next day. Because that's the beauty of dopamine in our brain, right? Is it makes us feel good. And then the next day we want more of that feel good. And so if we aren't aware of what's happening, it can get us into a lot of trouble.
So true. So true. I love that. A lot of health comes down to awareness and intention, right? And you're planning. Why do we do what we do? And when you do it, like you said, be in the moment or really take responsibility for what you're doing.
It's so true because I think if we aren't intentional about how we're living our lives, what we end up doing is reacting to life. And our reactions are based on our past habits. And so if your past habits have not served you into a place where you really feel healthy, reacting with those habits is not going to make you healthier.
Right.
So we have to get into a space where we can respond to life rather than react to it. And one of the only ways that I know how to do that is to pre-plan exactly how you want your holidays to roll. How do you want how are you going to eat tomorrow? What time are you going to go to bed? Put forethought into those decisions. And is it always going to go perfectly? No way. Progress is not linear. Your execution will never be perfect because you're human. Because that's just us. Like, we aren't perfect. But if you're committed to consistently recommitting every day, that's how great things happen. It's just consistently recommitting. People who have created great success in their life have failed a lot. And I think that is definitely the case with achieving a better state of health. It's not going to be perfect, but are you willing to pick yourself back up and begin again and begin again and begin again?
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's why I love the name of your podcast, Grace and Grit. And I love how that ties to health. And maybe you want to share a little bit about that or where the name came from. I know you have shared on your podcast, but the fact that we need both in our lives and in our health journey, the grace, but then also the grit. So maybe if you want to share with listeners a little bit about that, and then also where they can find you and connect with you.
Sure. So Grace and Grit is really, to me, it is like the epitome of health, because grace is gratitude for what is going well in your life. And here's the truth. We all have dark stories. We all have things in our life that we wish just weren't happening. Everyone has things about their physiology they want to change. However, there's a lot that your physiology is doing awesomely well right now. You're listening to this video or watching this video. You woke up this morning. You're able to go to work today. Like, that is all, the gift of your physiology. And yet we tend to hyper-focus so much on everything that's wrong that it's no wonder we have a hard time eating healthy food and wanting to exercise and treat our body well. So grace to me is really extending gratitude, being in a space where you consistently extend gratitude to your body, regardless of what you want to change. Right? Like, there's an Elizabeth Gilbert quote that I love. It says, you can be a masterpiece and a work in progress simultaneously. And I think that's what grace allows us to see, right? Is that I'm both. I'm awesome, and there's a lot of room for improvement. So that is grace. Grace is really ultimately self-love. But I will say that I think self-love is a really big ask for a lot of people who have spent a lifetime in self-loathing. Mm-hmm. So gratitude allows us to start building self-respect. And self-respect ultimately can lead to self-love. So that's grace. And then grit is actually born out of a space of self-respect. When you respect yourself enough to acknowledge how awesome you are, and also acknowledge that there's that room for improvement, you lean into the things that will help you improve because you care about yourself. Because you like yourself. Grit is not about taking self-discipline to a place of such extremes out of self-hate, right? That's not what I'm talking about. Like, grit is really born out of the self-respect. And so, yeah, like I tell clients all the time, like, I can help you. I can tell you a lot of things that will work really well, but at the end of the day, you're the one who has to execute. Mm. So that's where grit comes in, is, are you willing to execute on the days you don't feel like it? Because we all have those days. I have those days all the time. I tell my clients, like, 50% of the time I want to go work out. The other 50%, I don't really want to go, but I remind myself of why I'm committed to going and the benefit on the other side of it, and I get my butt in the car, right? I just don't get caught up in the drama of it. And so that's really and I tell everyone that really my job as a coach is to help people discover their space in between grace and grit, because it's different for everybody. My space, like where I feel the healthiest between those two, is different than where you may land, because I might need more grace in my life. You might need more grit. But the one thing I know for sure is we both need a little bit of each. Mm-hmm. So, but where we fall on the spectrum is totally different for everybody.
I like it. Good stuff. Really, really good stuff. All right. So how can people connect with you if they want to learn more, tune in, follow along with your journey, how can we connect?
Yeah, so probably the best place, definitely listen to the podcast. It's on iTunes, the Grace and Grit podcast, helping women everywhere live happier, healthier, and more fit. And then also my website, graceandgrit.com, and social media channels, which you can find on my website. They're all at the bottom of the website, so people can find me there.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you so much again for taking a few minutes to do this. I appreciate the time and also the thought that goes into something like this. So thank you so much for doing that. And just thank you for all the work that you're doing.
Yeah, thanks for the work you're doing. We need a lot more of us.
Absolutely. Just